We are two NPCs in the world of animation and gaming talking about the chaos of the industry. Whether you're here for the pixels, the drama, or just along for the ride, welcome to Pixelated 8. Let's press start. Hello, hello.
Hello
We're
there.
back again.
Hey.
So how's your week going?
Week is going good. I started a new job,
Mm,
which is good. I just needed a change from my last job.
mm.
Just mentally exhausted, all that kind of stuff. Similar stuff we've been talking about for the past few podcasts, and it's kind of good change.
Yeah.
It's always a fresh start is always scary, and is always good change.
Yeah, that's like you're anxious, but
Yeah.
I know like it's kind of a thing. Yeah, are you choosing burnout or like being anxious for like a new beginning? It's
What do you mean by
always
burnout? Like,
oh, like when you spend too long at a place, or
hmm,
if like when you're actually being stressed on your job
yes.
all the time, there are periods where you just burn out, and
Oh,
if
totally.
you go 100% all the time, you're bound to get tired,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I feel
yeah.
like at any workplace,
Hmm.
there is always a burnout period. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, there's some people who can overcome it, and they can actually stay in a workplace for a long time. But there are also
Yeah.
people who are like, oh no, I can't do this anymore. I need a new change of scenery.
Oh, definitely. I think,
Mm,
like when you the burnout that you're talking about, I would actually categorize them in two different ways, right?
mm,
There's one burnout that is like, I would almost count that as like actual physical working burnout. Like you're
mm,
just doing so much work, you're just exhausted. Like that happened to me, like when I was a supervisor at in animation. That
mm,
one was exhausting. Like like I'll just say it. I broke down. Like I broke
mm,
down twice at work. Like
mm.
you go in a corner, you cry a little bit. You're like, I can do this. I can do this. But it happens. It's normal.
Yeah.
It happens, and you
Mm-hmm.
gotta always remember this. You got friends, you got family, this sport, right? So
Yeah.
that to me is work related burnout, and it's a different feeling though, because you still enjoy the company of the people you work with, but it's just so overwhelmed with the amount of work you have, right?
Mm.
And the best way to overcome those kind of things is to actually lean on your fellow
Yeah.
friends at work and be like, okay, let's work together to solve some of these
I think personally,
problems.
I don't really too much work doesn't affect me as much as long
Hmm.
as I can finish it at the end of the day. It's more
Yeah.
like if I can finish it, then it's the feeling of success. Like you kind of get a high out of it
Yes.
when you
Exactly.
can actually
Yeah.
finish something.
Yeah.
I think for me, the things that cause me to burn out is
Hmm.
probably the inability to do work or being unable to do a lot of work because
Hmm.
all these other factors outside are
Yeah.
actually stopping you.
So I would consider that as the second type of burnout,
Mm,
because I've experienced kind of both. So the
yeah.
first one, for example, again, I had like the supervisor politics, I had
Mm,
the department politics, I had the workload, how
yeah.
to accomplish certain tasks. All these elements were just always hitting you over the head, kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
that's that level of burnout. The burnout that you're talking about, and this is why I left my previous job, was because that burnout where it's like you're walking on eggshells all the time,
Yeah. You don't know what
right?
to say. You don't know
Exactly.
what is right to say because you feel like you're around people who are very sensitive to everything
Hmm.
or could technically take your words the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very scary, I think.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I found out, I think the last week I was leaving, what my
Mm.
reputation was for some reason. It's like as if I was told like I was very stern, I was very like
Mm.
aggressive, and people were scared to talk to me. And
Mm.
then one person even told me, "It's like, oh, it was really nice to meet you. You're a very nice person." That's not what I heard, and I'm just like, what?
Oh.
It was the strangest thing ever, because I always approach it with open book, open, like, because to
Mm.
me, we're in animation, film, video games, collaborative. It's
Mm-hmm.
fun, you know.
Yeah.
Why are we trying to be like all structure and process and blah blah blah? Those things are important, but it's almost like the classic saying of you need to know, or I think it was Picasso or something who said something like, once you learn how to paint properly, you learn all the rules,
Mm.
then you go and break them all, right? But you got to learn the rules first.
That's like in music, that's jazz, right?
Yep, yep,
That was the thing they talk about. You learn all the
exactly.
rules and then you break
Yeah.
them.
So you mentioned something. You
Yeah.
said communication
Mm.
as part of this level of burnout. So I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of dive
Go
into
on.
that a little bit today. So what do you think about that?
I don't know. Speaking is an art, right?
Hmm.
And like being an introvert myself is actually very hard for me to always be able to hold up a conversation with people.
Hmm.
So for me, like actually making friends at work is hard, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I feel like because of that, the way I carry myself is usually in a professional manner.
Hmm.
And I can kind of see that from like, those yearly reviews. If you get from other people, their comments are like, yeah, you're very professional. You
Yeah.
always like the way you talk, it's like
Yeah.
you always take everything very professional.
Yeah. But you always yell at me at work,
No, I don't.
though. What? Just
I only yell at stupid people.
oh.
No, just kidding. No, well, actually, I feel like I do turn into a different person depending on the role I am. Like, as say as a mentor or a lead,
Mhm.
I'm usually a little bit more stern when I'm
Mhm.
trying to train someone,
Yeah. Yeah. That makes
go
sense.
into a different mode.
Hmm.
But like when I'm actually doing work, then it's like a different, also different language, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to figure out what the right language is. I think we briefly talked about this.
Yeah.
It's like knowing when to talk to your lead and knowing when to talk to your lead as a friend,
Yes.
if they're a
And
friend,
like this
you know?
actually takes certain amount of EQ, right?
Hmm.
Emotional intelligence kind of.
Yes.
You have to be able to read the room.
Yeah.
Like even in those big group meetings, the reviews and stuff. I'm not sure. Like I mean, we kind of seen this as experience. There are always some people who doesn't read the room and
Hmm.
you'll notice it right away because they'll be the wildest, like they'll say the wildest things or like just be the ones to ask the weirdest questions
Hmm.
that like everyone's like cringe, oh my god, you're
Yeah.
gonna offend this person,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
did you ask that kind of thing, and everyone's just like silent before like someone jumps in to answer them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah. 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 Actually, I've been at the end of that sometimes where
Mm.
I've been the one asking questions in
Mm-hmm.
meetings and I just get silence.
Yeah.
And at one point I used to think, "Oh my god, was my question that bad?
Mm.
Did I not phrase it correctly?" Then I started realizing, you know what? People just don't understand the pipeline.
Yeah, or they don't
People,
understand what you're asking.
yeah, they don't understand the steps that need to happen to accomplish these tasks.
Mm.
And all they care about is the end goal. So
Yep.
they don't care to hear anything you have to say or what you need to do.
Yeah.
And that to me goes into the stress we were talking about, right?
It could be frustrating
Yeah.
when people don't understand.
Hmm.
That's why
Yeah. Hmm.
for example, sometimes when I actually talk to say production
Hmm.
and I know I'm trying to explain to them some
Yeah.
very technical issue that we're having that
Hmm.
is a blocker.
Yeah.
Like I've seen people who just jump in
Yeah.
and tell them about all these issues that they're having and with all the technical jargon and like
Yeah.
languages, and it just goes over their head.
Yeah.
You have to kind of like think about the story a little bit and then
Hmm.
tell them from the beginning in like the simplest terms
Yeah.
just to make sure that they understand. And like you need to use like metaphors, analogies if they don't.
Yeah. That's a good
Yeah.
way. That's a good way of communicating it. The metaphor is a good idea. Like I do have a bad habit of like I will start the story halfway in
Yeah.
and
I
I'll
noticed that.
yeah, and I'll expect them to understand what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And then, because I assume they're in the same level wavelength as me,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then again, I realize no, they're not. Like we work together long enough that
Yep.
we're on the same wavelength, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people I find just
You can't assume that.
You
That's the
can't
thing.
assume that. No.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you start in your teamwork, once you start building a team,
Mm.
you do get into those wavelengths. And you know
Yes.
exactly
Yes.
what you guys are, what each other is talking about, right?
Yeah. The longer you spend with your
The longer
team,
you
the
spend,
more
exactly.
you know
Yeah.
what they're thinking. Yeah.
Like I'm gonna bring up an example that you told me today actually about audio, right?
Mm.
Where you requested an audio file to be integrated almost a few months ago,
Mm.
but no one heard your warning, or
Yeah.
no one listened, or no one bothered. Even though to me, that is like, how else do you explain that process? You know what I mean? It's not, it's like, how many times do you have to explain that audio needs to be added? Audio needs to be added. Like, you can't rephrase that any other
No.
way,
No.
right?
And this
So,
comes down to
yeah.
actually also,
Mm-hmm.
and our friend used to kind of make fun of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a love of trying to make a lot of meetings at work.
Oh my
But
God.
if you actually bring it down to having effective meetings,
Yeah.
you can actually find that a lot of meetings are useless.
Oh, totally. Totally. Yeah.
Our friend always makes fun of it because there
Mm-hmm.
will be these meetings where he'll call this $1 million meetings where
Yeah.
it's true. Like they have
Yeah.
everyone who's
Yeah.
like the directors and all the
Yeah.
producers and like all the like CG soups and all of them, their time in that meeting
Yeah.
at times their salary is going to be $1 million meetings
Oh yeah.
where usually there's no conclusion
Yeah.
or like they talk about things in the middle and then suddenly stop and be like, oh, let's take this offline. It's like, okay, if this is going to be an offline topic, then why don't you go offline to begin with?
Exactly, exactly. And important things about meetings. This should be for everybody. This is something
Yeah.
actually my sister taught me way back in the day when I
Mm,
was a supervisor. She told me two things. She said, one, always pre-plan your meeting
mm,
ahead of schedule.
that's a good
Like
one. Yeah.
just plan, structure it, get ready to roll. Have it so that you have answers to everything,
Mm,
or if you don't, be prepared to be like, okay, yeah, don't worry, we'll note that down and make a note that you're gonna get back to them.
mm-hmm.
But don't go into the meeting as if that's the starting of the research, or that's the starting of
Yeah.
the development,
Yeah.
because that you're going into a meeting, you're setting yourself up to fail, basically.
Yeah.
And second thing is, before the meeting, you even go into a meeting, let's say you're trying to propose something, right?
Yeah.
You want to go and talk to key individuals first,
Mm-hmm.
at least two or three people that are going to be in that meeting. Show them what your discussion points are.
Mm,
Find out if there's going to be any objections.
mm-hmm.
And this way, before you even get to the meetings, you've already developed few allies
Mm,
who can then back you up in those meetings.
yeah.
So that's a very important skill I found, and even as recently as the last big project that I was on, the last
Mm,
studio, I went and talked to three people, three different departments to get their feedback before booking the big meeting with the director, right? So, and the minute I booked the meeting with the director, I had all the answers I needed to be able to really discuss things in much more detail that the director wants to hear. Because
mm.
the director won't care about the technical nitty gritty.
No.
The
No.
director wants to see the overview picture. But then,
Yeah.
if you've already talked the technical nitty gritty stuff that I'm talking about with all the people that are stakeholders in that,
Mm,
you then end up with the director with a unified voice almost, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
And it makes a big difference. And it doesn't even take long. I'm talking about maybe like you have 10, 15 minutes per person you talk to before
Yeah.
the big meeting, just
Pre-meetings,
yeah,
kind of.
pre-meetings, prepare, really develop, and get the ball rolling correct, and not have these $1 million meetings.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
worst things about in a meeting if you're proposing something is to have
Hmm.
someone veto you.
Oh, totally,
Right?
totally.
It's like
Yeah,
suddenly they're like, no, this is not a good idea. And then you'll
yeah,
be like, oh, okay, now I'm stuck. What do
yeah.
I say?
I mean, that will happen. You will plan a meeting like
Yeah,
crazy, and the
yeah.
director's like, I don't want it.
Yeah, that's true.
you know,
No, it
yeah,
happens
it
for sure.
happens. You just gotta roll with it. You'll be like, yep, no problem.
Yeah, and you're trying to kind of just be as prepared as you can, right?
Yeah.
In those meetings. Like for example, if I am in the meeting trying to like show a quest or something,
Hmm.
then I'll make sure I have that Quest open, I have everything ready
Yeah.
to just click into it and be ready to show, right? Like you don't want to be, showing something in Maya and actually having to load
Yes.
up Maya during the meeting. No,
Oh,
you want to have
exactly.
Maya opened.
Exactly.
Game
Yeah.
engine wise, you want to have the game engine open. Like you don't want to make people wait. Yeah, I get anxious.
They do a little pre-recording in case
Yeah,
it crashes,
exactly. Yeah,
Be
yeah,
ready. Be ready
yeah,
for that. Yeah.
exactly. That's a very important thing to do. One thing I also find
Hmm.
very common with people now, I'm actually noticing more and more. I actually have a pretty good memory. If
Hmm.
I'm paying like 100% attention to a meeting, I'll actually remember
Yeah.
it.
Same.
I find that a lot of people don't.
Oh, yeah.
So stuff
I
that
know what you mean.
happened maybe a month, 2 months ago, that
Yeah.
meeting, I will
Hmm.
remember exactly what happens.
Hmm.
Now the problem is, I am with probably 6 other people in that meeting talking about things, and
Yeah.
then 2 months later, there are 3 other people that I'm talking with, and I bring up that meeting. None of them seem to remember
Yeah.
anything we talked about in the meeting.
Yeah. That can be very stressful.
It's very, very stressful because here's the thing, right? I'm going to pick on a certain department. I'm going to pick on production
Oh my God.
because I'm sorry, but like if they have a lot of meetings,
Yeah.
but you're here
Hmm.
and you're there but not remembering the information or not writing it down so that everyone knows,
Yeah.
then why are you in that meeting, right?
Yeah.
If your basic
Job.
ability job in that
Yeah.
meeting is to record information and pass it along to everyone else,
Yeah. Exactly.
then you cannot not remember about it. If
Yeah.
I remember about it, it's kind of like, wait, I was there, you were there,
Yeah.
so why don't you remember anything about this? We talked about this already.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
found a handful of production people, which I think everybody, all of them should do this at all meetings, but only a handful do this,
Meeting
where
notes. Meeting notes
meeting
are
notes,
so important.
but you can see the meeting notes while they're typing it. So within the meeting, they're sharing their screen and they're typing them. So one, they're listening.
Mm.
And two, even if they don't understand technically, I've actually gone ahead and said, oh, on my note that you just added, do you mind adding the following line as well?
Yeah.
And what that does is it reinforces what I'm going to deliver then
Yeah.
based on the meeting.
Mm.
And secondly, we then go over those meeting notes in the next meeting
Mm.
to see what was accomplished.
Yeah.
But I see that so rarely done, so rarely.
But I do
Yeah.
see some production who does that, and it's great.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
you
it's
can
amazing.
go
Yeah,
into any meeting
yeah,
and go back into their notes, and they have everything clearly written
yes,
down.
yeah.
So there's no questions. And like there are recently, if I've actually met one production person that the way he starts the meetings and
Hmm.
ends the meetings, it's great because
Yeah.
he'll be like, oh, the purpose of this meeting is to do A, B, C, D,
Hmm.
and
Exactly.
then we're trying to do this,
Yeah.
and in conclusion, after at the end of the meeting, he'll be like, okay, now we know this and this, and we need to follow up on this.
Yeah.
So being that organized, it just kind of brings everything together, that
Yeah.
the meeting has purpose.
Yep. Actually, there's something important to bring up here.
Mm.
One thing, like you said, the meeting has purpose, right?
Yeah.
And that purpose, what ends up happening is it gives you purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because automatically, if the production person is organized,
Mm.
they're creating a list of all the things that we need everybody to step up to the plate and
Mm.
bring to the table,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And they're already stepping up at the plate and bringing their own skills to the table. That almost reinforces you to do the same,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because then you're like, okay, I have a task that I have to accomplish because I said it in this meeting that I was going to do, and it's been recorded,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
It makes everything almost like it levels up everybody,
Yeah, it does. Because
right?
when somebody is
Hmm.
doing their best, then
Yeah,
you're kind of forced to do your best as well.
exactly. And
Yeah.
actually, so this goes back to some of the rules that we have or we've been following.
Mm.
One is bring a notebook to every meeting.
Mm. Yeah.
If you're physically in this office, bring a notebook.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're at home, just write the notes and
Yeah.
write them
Or
or type them up,
them. Yeah.
whichever. Yeah. I've actually said that recently in my new job. I've actually been like, okay, I'm just typing this up I'm just
Yeah.
taking some notes
Yeah.
so I can follow back on this.
Yeah.
And I verbally have said that just so that the other person knows that I'm taking them seriously,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to create a nice relationship.
Yeah.
One thing I'm doing with my current work is I'm taking these extra steps
Yeah.
to rebuild my confidence,
Yeah.
because my last job just destroyed it. So I'm trying to rebuild my confidence, and I'm taking these kind of steps
Mm-hmm.
by acknowledging what the other person's saying in meetings, and then going, okay, I'm noting that down so I can follow through with it, and I'll let you know what I'm going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And there's actually a lot of helpful tools nowadays. I don't know where every studio use what kind of software they use to communicate, but like a lot of video recordings have transcripts now, so
Yes,
it's so easy to just go back and see what they're talking about
definitely.
and write it
Actually,
down. Yeah.
for me, it's been a lifesaver is ChatGPT. I know not about doing the meetings or anything,
Yeah.
but I use it for spelling, grammar,
Mm.
and refine, basically.
Mm.
Because for
Okay.
someone with the dyslexia,
Mm.
and you know how we were just talking about how I start the story in the middle,
Yeah.
right? That kind of goes into my dyslexia, ADD, where
Mm.
my brain is thinking so fast that by the time I say something, I've assumed that you're already on the same page. And I've
Mm. I see.
forgotten that no, I
Yeah.
need to explain what my brain was thinking like 5 minutes ago,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
But what ChatGPT does is it fixes my sentences and my words to make it more normal, essentially. Uh,
Coherent.
Coherent. That's a better
Yeah.
word. Thank you. See, I need ChatGPT here. You
It's
know,
funny because
yeah.
like I mean there obviously even before ChatGPT
Hmm.
there's like Grammarly, there's all these other tools that helps you. So it's not like a crime to use it. Like
Oh, totally. I don't think so.
I don't think
Yeah.
you should 100% rely on it to actually write. But for
Oh, of course not.
example,
No.
I use it the opposite way. So sometimes
Mm.
I don't want to say this wordy paragraph. I'll
Mm.
ask
Yeah, yeah.
I'll ask ChatGPT to make it short and concise. I'm like,
Yes.
put this in point form. And that actually helps me get rid of the stuff I don't need. And then I can
Absolutely.
look at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
point form and be like, okay, is that what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
If not, then change the wording on this or like a keyword on this to make sure it's getting my point. Or if
Exactly.
it's correct, then it's like,
Mhm.
okay, this is what I'm trying to say. Or this is like whatever I wrote up, this is the meaning of it, basically.
Very similar to the way I do it too now, where
Mm.
I'll take it, it'll refine it, then I'll even ask it to shorten it
Yeah,
or to make it more concise,
yeah,
right? And then once it gives it to me, I reread it a couple of times to really see whether it's exactly what I'm trying to say. And if I
yeah.
find that it's not exactly, I'll add a sentence to further explain it,
Mm.
and I found that to be probably the best way of doing it.
Yeah.
Kind of like mixing what the way you're doing it and my
Mm-hmm.
old way,
Yeah.
because my old way became very wordy, very wordy. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. I
And yeah,
That's one thing I don't like is being too
yeah,
wordy.
yeah.
I myself hate reading wordy paragraphs and stuff,
Hmm.
so I try not to subject other people to it. To
Yes.
me, if you can get it in fewer words, then do it in fewer words. If you can
Yeah.
do it in point form, do it in point form. Because
Yeah.
if you're actually in a busy workplace, nobody has
Hmm.
time to read your paragraph.
Oh,
Doesn't matter
absolutely.
how nicely you write it. It's just like get to the point, man, kind of like that.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, this goes into something we want to discuss in general,
mm,
which was basically don't communicate or message right away if you get a
mm.
message, right?
Yeah, think about what you want to say first before like
Exactly.
typing it
Think
out.
about it. Think
I think
about it.
that's very
Yeah.
important, especially
Yeah. Hmm.
when you're being asked something that you're not sure of.
Yes.
I
Get
feel
all the
like,
answers. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we have all these communication, like it's all chat, right? Right now,
Yes.
like when you
Especially now
communicate.
with work from home.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
so it makes it so easy for you to actually take that and think about it
Yeah.
before you reply.
Yeah. And, you have time. You don't have to reply right away.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself that 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever
Yeah.
you need to really get your thoughts across,
Yep.
and be mindful of who you're talking to.
Yes, that's
Like,
a big thing
yeah.
too.
Hmm. Like today, I was talking to a director. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'll let you go ahead.
you go ahead.
No, you go.
Now, I was just saying,
Yeah.
sometimes also, when you're typing, you don't know how the other person is going to take it
Yes.
for your tone.
Yeah.
So I feel like this kind of ties into what we're talking about. Communication is an art.
Hmm.
Like make effective use of, emojis even.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
started doing a lot of those actually. I actually, being a guy, I was like, oh, I shouldn't give hearts to people. That's weird.
Mm,
But yeah, I give hearts to a lot of people now. I'm like, you get
yeah.
a heart, you get a heart, everybody gets a heart.
No, I actually picked
Yeah.
up that habit as well because people
Hmm.
started using hearts. Like, the thumbs up for like, okay, I read your message.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then hearts for like thanking someone who did something. Because,
Yeah.
like, always just typing thank you kind of like sometimes it's like too much. So
Yeah.
you just, give them a heart. Or if you already said thank you and then they added something else that they did, then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, thank you. You don't want to type it again. So I just give them a heart.
These young kids taught me the fire emoji. If you're
Yeah.
on fire, keep it
Oh,
up.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I
I saw
love it.
that too.
Yeah.
Yes, that's also nice.
I
Yeah.
started using that too. I'm like, that's fire.
Mm-mm.
I might be too old for that, but still, it's
Or,
fire.
I mean, some people would just,
Mhm.
spend time to actually look through those gifs
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
and try to look
Yeah,
for a funny one. But like,
yeah,
for me, I'm just like, okay, no, 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 just keep
yeah.
it simple. I can't do that. But
Exactly.
it's essentially there to actually lighten the mood or
Mhm.
make sure that people kind of get what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
and not take it the wrong way. Because sometimes if your replies are very dry, it depends on the person who's reading and their
Yes.
mood
Yes. Totally.
to actually just kind of get what they're saying.
So you know how I was talking about my reputation, right?
Yeah.
Earlier.
Yes.
That's because I believe in just giving the facts,
Mm.
and I still believe in that.
Yeah.
But nothing's stopping me from adding a little emoji at the end,
Yeah.
which I started doing at my new job. I
Yeah.
give the facts and I put a little smiley face at the end.
Yeah.
Because I realized at my previous job, I would give the facts and people were like, wow, this guy's very serious. And it's like, because I just need to give you information. It's like,
Yeah.
what else am I going to give you? Right?
Mm. Yeah.
But,
It's hard because
yeah.
like it does
Hmm.
become a habit, but
Yeah.
when you communicate with people, you
Yeah.
understand that the people who you think are really easy to communicate with,
Hmm.
they usually have some kind of humor.
Yes.
So it's nice to talk to them.
Hmm.
Like I've been working with a tech director,
Yeah.
and yeah, he's just always very humorous. Even looking
Mhm.
at situations where you're dealing with a very annoying problem
Yeah.
that's
It's
gonna
true.
probably take time to solve, or
Yeah.
like just looking at some very dumb ways of doing things, and in your head you're like, oh my god, why are they doing it this way?
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
would be like, oh, this is a dumb way of doing it, which is like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a cute way of saying it, but
Yeah.
because he said that, the tension's like a lot lower,
Yeah.
and you're actually a lot more comfortable telling him what you think. Because sometimes with those people you don't know it, you're like, oh, should I tell them that it's like a really stupid way of doing things, or like, oh, this is very very tedious, like
Yeah. Yeah.
just, but you don't
Mhm.
want to kind of
Yeah.
offend anyone, or like, yeah, I don't know, because it's hard to know that if how people would take it. So same thing when they
Yeah.
give you that kind
Mhm.
of signal that they're still being humorous about it, it's very
Yes.
easy to talk to them, and you
Yeah.
aren't going to offend them. Yeah.
So just to add to that a little bit,
Mm,
the humor part, I have to say, with my new job,
mm.
we all turn on our cameras
Ah,
if we're in a
okay.
meeting,
Mm.
and it actually changes the feeling of the meeting quite heavily, I find.
I'm a no camera person though.
I know
That's
you're no,
I know
but you
it's
got
it's
it. You
hard. It's
got it.
hard.
Yeah.
But
I would recommend doing it because
yeah.
what I started doing was uh because I'm trying to respect the meetings because
Mm.
I'm just started, so
Yeah.
I know my word isn't that strong yet,
Yeah.
right? So I'm there to observe. That's the way
Yeah.
I'm approaching it, especially starting the job. I will speak up when I really feel like I need to speak up, but
Mm.
90% of the time in the meeting I'm quiet,
Mm.
but I have a smile on my face,
Yeah.
right? I laugh. You can see me laughing with the jokes that they're saying. And it goes a long way to keep the atmosphere lighthearted then.
That's true.
Because I found that previously I would just put my hand up, no camera,
Yeah.
and just say my statement.
Mm.
And then mute myself back up,
Yeah,
right?
because usually people
Yeah,
mute their mics if they're not
exactly.
speaking.
And people, because I'm just giving facts, right?
Mm.
People might have, or most likely took that as sternness,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
Mm.
Because they don't hear me laughing after I said anything, right?
Well, the thing I do now,
Yeah.
even without a camera, is that I
Hmm.
do start using the emotes.
Yes.
I
Yes.
start using the emotes,
Hmm.
clapping or hearts or like thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just going backtrack a little bit, the example I was going to give where I had to talk to a director about the delay on something,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And I was like, okay, I can go into the technical, or I can just give him just enough information
Mm.
that he knows that I'm trying to solve the issue right now,
Yeah.
and I'll give him an update in about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all he needed.
Yeah.
And the minute I told him that, he was happy. He's like, thank you for the update.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing that also happened was another department delivered me a video file, and I realized the video file had the wrong color spectrum,
Mm.
right? Or the color codec, whatever, some different terms. And I was gonna ask them to just quickly change it, but then we were on a time crunch. So I had two choices. I could submit as is from that department and been like, not my responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Or I can go ahead and fix it and submit it,
Mm.
right? Do I tell that to the director? My opinion was no.
Mm.
As far as the director is concerned, this is done.
Mm.
I've taken it, or I've inherited this now, and I'm going to fix it,
Mm.
especially with the time crunch, right?
Okay.
Next week, because the time crunch is finished, I can go ahead and discuss this as a more serious topic about what's the best format to export this data,
Mm. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So I held myself from discussing things and what I was doing to accomplish the task,
Mm.
because I was like, no, the director doesn't need to know this information right now.
Mm.
Next week I can bring it up, because
Yeah.
today is crunch day.
Mm.
Next week I can bring all these discussion points.
Yeah, it
You know?
depends on, I guess, who you're talking to and if
Yeah.
that's necessary information.
Yes.
For the example that you're giving,
Hmm.
say for me, I would bring it up to my lead, and
Hmm.
the way I bring it up would be like, these are the solutions. Solution one, do this. Solution
Hmm.
two, do that. Which one do you prefer? I would say that.
Yeah.
And if like
Yeah.
one's more time convenient, I'll just put that in the solution as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And that goes back to giving just the amount of information that is necessary.
Yeah, but
You don't
also
have to give all of it. You know?
sometimes when you say something is a problem, you
Hmm.
do have to offer the solution. Even if you
Absolutely.
don't know if the
Absolutely.
solution
Yeah.
is right or not, or if you have a few,
Yeah.
then write them all down and let people choose. That
Yeah.
goes way better than you just saying, oh, this is a problem. And then it's like, so? So if this is a problem, what do you do? Kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna come back to a problem that we have.
Mm.
We not only give the problem,
Mm.
we give the solution, and
Yeah.
then we tell them how difficult this is.
Yeah.
But then we accomplish it in within record times. Like, oh, this is gonna take 2 days, and we finish it in like an hour. Why? Because we are that efficient. Because we program it, we whatever is necessary, make it so that it's like multitasks, and we'll just finish it, right? And it always sucks, because then they're like, oh, look how fast you did it.
Backfire.
Is it
Well,
really an issue? And I'm just like,
that's why you do need to
it
cover yourself,
is.
though. For
Yeah.
example, if you're gonna say, hey, this solution, the normal way, it'll take 2 days to complete.
Yes.
But I'm gonna look into this solution, which is a workaround that might speed up the time. And you can kind of
Yeah,
say that,
that's true.
but you don't tell them if you are successful or not. But then
Yeah.
in the end, if you actually do it, then you kind of also cover yourself. But
Yeah.
also, like, you're not lying if you do it fast. Like, you're not lying if you say it takes 2 days.
Oh
But
no, of course.
you're also
Of course
not
not.
lying
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
actually did it faster because you
I
found
know.
shortcuts. So I know it's like
Yeah.
communicating, right?
Yeah.
You do have to cover yourself, then make sure you're dropping these seats if you're going to do something like that, just to not make yourself look like a liar.
Yeah, I know exactly. And the worst is, you're not even lying.
Yeah.
You're not lying. It's
Yeah.
like I still remember a few times where I'll go, okay, this is going to take me 3 days,
Mm.
and I'll look at the tasks and I'll start working on it,
Mm.
but I'll do like one very slowly,
Mm.
while on the side I'm writing like a Python script to make it automated,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So by the time 2 days go by, I haven't really delivered any shots yet,
Yeah.
let's say, right? And people are like, oh, wow, you're way behind. You haven't even delivered anything, and everything's due tomorrow,
Mm.
right? It's almost 3 days.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, on end of day two, I'll have my script finished and I'll press a button, and all whatever 10 of my shots are finished within an hour,
Yeah.
right? And from that point on, I can now do everything so much faster.
Yeah, fast.
But
Yeah.
my original bid days
Yeah.
are still there for 3 days, and people are like, well, how come you're doing it fast now? You said 3 days. And I'm just like, I took the initial 3 days, which was going to take me 3 days, and I optimized it so that next time I get it, it's faster.
Yeah.
But again, you try to explain that and people are like, huh? Yeah, like,
Yeah, no, because it goes over their heads, right?
I
The
know.
same thing, I mean, when I was
Yeah.
doing hair simulation, I started
Yeah.
writing scripts to do all the steps because there's a bunch of stuff that you have to do and it's the same every time. So it's like, whereas if you want to do it manually, you can do it manually, but if you can click a button, it all gets done. Just take the time to write that button.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. You remember we worked on that one, it was the pilot of that show
Yes.
where I was like, okay, because you wanted to create a character effects rig,
Yeah.
right? On the characters. I said, go for it.
Yeah.
I will cover you and I'll do your shots while you're doing that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we were, and that's how, in my opinion, teamwork and divide and conquer work,
Yes. Yeah.
right? So within your team, in my opinion, if you can build that kind of scenario where if one person wants to develop something that you know it's going to benefit you like tenfold by the time they finish,
Yeah.
then you take the brunt and you do their work for them.
Yeah.
And that's the approach I always do. It's like, yep, let me do it. Let me do the whatever shots. And by the time you finished, we had such an amazing rig that, again, not only was our speed tripled, but we were able to do hair simulation and cloth simulation on characters with no hair or cloth simulation rigs.
Yeah,
You
like
built
side
it so that you
characters.
could import them
You
and
could
add
just
them. Yeah,
put them
it was
on
wild.
everyone.
It was perfect. I was like, this is amazing. This
Yeah.
is the way to go. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
we also wanted to build a proof of concept. This
Yes.
is right before you are going to work on that direct-to-DVD movie, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
And you were able to use that as a proof of concept to build all those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was amazing.
Actually, that kind of brings me back to also speaking. While you're doing that, like proof of concept and stuff like that, you'll never want to be boasting that this is what you're doing and telling everyone.
Yes. Yeah.
For me, my upbringing is that my dad always tells me before you complete your task,
Yeah.
don't go promise that you're gonna like
Yeah.
do it if you haven't done it. Like if
Yeah.
it doesn't come true, don't say it. Basically.
It's true. That's a good way of doing it. And just to add to that for yourself, I have a question. Would you say like always in meetings have examples ready, proof of concept stuff?
Proof of concept stuff?
Like for example, in a few cases, I've tried to explain things, and I realized show don't tell,
Yeah.
right? So always show what you're trying to do. Don't tell
Yeah.
them what you're trying to do.
Sometimes explaining takes way too many words, and the saying goes, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So sometimes just showing people the picture is probably easier than explaining it, how to do it. But also it depends on the receiving end. So you gotta look at who you're talking to, if they'll know what you're doing, kind of thing.
Yeah. So earlier I mentioned the example of me going to different people, showing anything, and then finally going to the director. And one of the reasons I was so successful was because I actually created files with another colleague of mine that showed exactly what the final outcome was going to look like.
Oh, for
I
sure.
spend an extra week out of my schedule just to do that. And was it part of my job? No. But I wanted to get this approval And once I got this approval, this would open up the doors to, again, faster process, faster, basically everything would become a lot more efficient.
I guess it's how
Yeah,
much you want it, but also how much time you are willing to allot to it.
correct.
But for example, sometimes you can't do that if you're depending on other departments, though.
Yeah,
Because you can't subject
yeah,
other people to random work without
yeah.
actually getting approved. And that's when, sometimes people get into trouble for that kind of thing.
Actually,
Unfortunately, yeah.
that's why I truly believe in this. I think everybody should be a little bit of a generalist, a little bit.
Yeah, so you can do everything yourself.
You can do everything.
Yeah.
Like, in video games, you create your own gym,
Yeah.
right? So you create your own gym, you start doing experiments in there, you build stuff. If an asset doesn't exist, go and read the documentation on how to build an asset. Build an asset, put it in your gym,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, sure. If you're having difficulty, then yeah, talk to someone,
Mm.
but don't tell them to do something for you
Yeah.
because they could be busy. They might
Mm.
not be interested in this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you have to cater of that level of EQ as well. It's like don't just assume everybody's on your schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Like you're not the center of the world basically, so
I'm sometimes, but not all the time.
to yourself you are, but not to everyone else. So
Exactly.
I always try to make sure when I'm speaking, I'll think of that basically. Yeah.
One thing I'm gonna bring up with discussing about this
Mm.
is the dark side. This is the type of communication I hate, and what I'm referring to is the a-holes
Beep.
that beep. Okay, we'll call them nincompoops.
Yeah, the nincompoops.
The nincompoops that decide to take over a meeting,
Mm.
that decide to yell the loudest, that have zero knowledge on any of the subject matters,
Mm.
but they just love to hear their own voice. And I find they also love to get angry the fastest.
Hmm. Mm.
And these kind of people are probably some of the most toxic people.
Yeah, there are few people I've seen like that. I'm pretty sure everyone has in their workplace.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And these people are very dangerous. I highly recommend anytime you're in a workplace to stay as far away from these kind of people as possible.
Yeah.
Because they can be, there's a level of seduction there.
Or manipulation, basically.
Manipulation. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
You get like sucked into their world because you're like, oh my God, this person knows so much, right?
Mm.
Or this person is amazing. And then when again we talked last week about when crunch time happens, these people are usually the first ones to blame other people. And you have to always remember you are not the number one person. That person who's the loudest most likely has the ear of the higher ups, the upper managements, and they will convince them exactly who to get rid of. Yeah, so you have to keep that in mind is and don't get me wrong, it's not a lot of people. You get like one or two in a studio,
Yeah.
you know.
But you always have to be wary of them. It's like,
Yes.
unfortunately, you just can't be, blissfully ignorant.
Yes, exactly.
You have to know who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And for those people, sometimes you have to withhold information from them, basically.
Yeah.
You don't want to tell them everything because I've actually been in situations where if I said something, they'll use it immediately in like the next meeting or something and against me basically saying, "Oh, so and so promised this." Where
And then
where you're like
stuck, right?
yeah, where I'm like, "No, I said we can do it. I did not promise this."
Yep. And they'll gaslight you too. That's
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah, gaslighting is a
yeah.
thing.
And they'll play the victim.
Mm.
I remember the first few times when I started working, I had a couple of them.
Mm.
And, I didn't know them. So I was like living, just believing everything they said. And then I saw some people warned me, actually, luckily.
Mm.
They told me to stay away from certain individuals.
Really?
Okay, that's a bit weird.
Yeah.
It was very strange. Being a first time job, I'm like, this is so weird. And someone's telling me that this person is dodgy. And, what ended up happening was I always take this approach. I always make my own opinions about someone, but I do stay cautious now every time I meet someone.
Yeah.
You never want to reveal your cards to everybody.
No, yeah, of
right?
course you want to always have your trump card up your sleeve, not telling
Exactly.
everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, just know who you're talking to, and like you do have to sometimes take note of their habits just so
Yeah.
that you don't get caught in the crossfire of whatever they're doing. It's yeah, it unfortunately workplace will have politics
Yeah.
no matter what, even if you don't want to get in them, but sometimes you just have to be careful. Like
Yeah.
for example, I will never 100% promise something because you never know what happens, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like
Like,
you'll
yeah.
try very hard to reach that outcome,
Yeah.
but you can't say, "Oh, all these will be for sure 100% done by this
Yes.
time."
Exactly.
Because you cannot take back those words once you've said them.
Yeah.
And if you haven't actually done it, you can't say that, basically.
Yeah.
Like, that's my
So,
philosophy. It's like, I can't promise it if I haven't actually finished it. So
exactly.
it's crazy. Yeah.
I was actually in a situation today, actually.
Mm.
Oddly enough, you bring this up where I had to say I had to finish something today,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
And I realized two important things.
Mm.
One was I had to finish something, but then I had to let another department know to accomplish their task too, so that my task would be completed, and then their task had to be completed so that both tasks could be completed on time,
Yeah.
right? And previously, when I tried to be a bridge between the director, myself, and the other department, it backfired on me
Mm.
because the other department said, "Oh, we don't have time. We're not going to do it." So
Mm.
I relayed that information back, and I was just the messenger, right?
Mm.
So obviously, I look bad here. So this time, what I decided to do was, I said because it was such an important deliverable, I said, "Oh, you know what? Why don't we start a group chat with all the key players?" So I started a group chat with all the key players, and I let everybody have a voice and have a discussion on. And the minute these deliverables happened, we were
Mm.
going so fast and we were able to accomplish all the tasks.
Mm.
And that's all because I realized that if I had promised I would get this done,
Yeah.
but instead I didn't even promise any of that. I just said, let's start a communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are the key things in today's discussion is the communications.
Mm. I feel like more so than communication is learn to read the atmosphere and
Ah,
think
yes.
before you speak. Like,
Yes.
as they say, take that breath before you speak. Think before you type out your sentence and what you're actually trying to say.
Actually, you were telling me, wasn't it?
Mm.
Where take before answering, take a deep breath
Mm.
and
I
then
think
answer the question.
that was one of a podcast we've actually
No,
heard.
no, you're supposed to say yes. That's me.
Oh,
I
okay.
said that. No. So you were telling me, right?
Yes.
That basically take a deep breath right before you answer,
Mm.
just to get yourself into the mindset, something like that.
Yeah, like well, especially if you're angry, just kind of like calm down before you say anything. Um,
Okay, okay.
if you see a message someone posted that pissed you off, also pause for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes before you reply,
Yeah.
rather than just replying automatically, because
Hmm.
you need to think of the way to put together your words to make sure
Yeah.
things don't go more south, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Especially if it's a loaded question.
Of course. Oh, the gaslighting.
Yeah.
Questions.
There are people who uses words to kind of like, oh, why isn't this done? It's been like
Hmm.
so many days.
Yeah.
Why hasn't anyone done anything? And if
Yeah.
they put it that way, you get irritated, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, think before you type. Just a lot of replies, and you know, crisis can be avoided.
Oh, definitely. You
Yeah.
can avoid so many crises by just thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, EQ is important, thinking is important. Just before you open your mouth, think about what you want to say and then say it. Yeah.
Yep. That sounds good.
Mm.
I think that should be good for today.
Yeah, I think that's like our topic for today.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in to Pixelated A. Hope you walked away with something new. Don't forget to follow. Until next time, keep it in play and power up for what's next.